Welcome to Enlightenment Unknown, Life of a Spiritual Nomad. Join Reiki Master and Quantum Healing expert Wes Coons as he guides listeners through the depths of self-discovery and spiritual enlightenment to uncover the version of you we haven't met yet. Hello and welcome to Enlightenment Unknown, Life of a Spiritual Nomad, behind the scenes of episode 2. Wes, you have just taken us all the way back to the beginning, and I've got to say, it's pretty incredible. I do have some questions for you.
Oh, sure you do.
Okay, so my first question is, when I was listening to you recount the beginning of your journey, I have to ask, why didn't you sell the house at the first sign of something scary? Because I think I would have been out of there so fast.
Hey, that's a great question, Andrea. Yeah, I am in real estate. I own a real estate company, so selling the house would not have been a big deal. And most of my friends all said the same thing: cut bait and get out. But how do I sell something and allow Mr. and Mrs. Jones to move in and turn that home over to somebody with 2 or 3 children? It didn't work for me. You know, I joined the military to protect people that could not protect themselves. And how am I going to knowingly and willingly sell that? And in the state of Virginia, I did not have to disclose it. So I kept the house, and it was my burden to fix.
Well, that's very responsible of you. And I have to ask, do you think that the people that lived there prior to you experienced this stuff, or how did this start, do you think?
Yeah, they did. I had put a post on Facebook that night with the fog going on, and I said, if you don't believe in ghosts, how do you explain this? And funny thing is, 2 of the girls that I went to high school with seen that post, and they reached out a week or so later and said, my dad built that house. And when they built the house, all kinds of weird things were going on, like the glass door to the fireplace would shatter and the glass would go across the room. You got to realize that's like a 27-foot room. It's a big room, the one that she was in. Glass doesn't fly that far. And they said that their father had, they just said struggles. I didn't ask what the struggles were, but that he would find himself sitting in that loft area by himself for hours at a time, like as if almost he was talking to somebody. So the house was really bizarre. And the funny thing is, the people that bought it from him didn't really experience anything. So I thought that was interesting. But when I bought the house, I moved the swimming pool. There was a problem with the swimming pool, so I decided to replace it. And, you know, the priest that came to the house and some other people that came to the house, they all felt as if when we moved the swimming pool, we disrupted something that was sacred. And one person, a psychic that we talked to, trying to figure some of this stuff out, said that they believe that slaves had died on a slave ship coming over to this country, because at the time, back a couple hundred years ago, ships could pull up there. So that was a area that ships could come to. And they felt that these slaves were thrown in this shallow grave. And in one of the episodes we're going to talk about is how we connected with those souls and helped them cross over to the light. It's absolutely mind-blowing, and it's extraordinary. So I'm excited to tell you about that story.
I definitely want to hear that one. I do have another question for you, Wes. So you were talking about there was a moment when you had to go into the camper because you didn't want to be in the house anymore, and you looked up to the bedroom and you saw a demon in your bedroom, like the silhouette or whatever of the demon. But you had also earlier said that you felt like that was a sacred, protective place. So how do those things line up?
Sure. It seemed like whenever I was in that bedroom, I was protected. And I don't know if it accessed the bedroom because I wasn't there. I don't understand how that worked. But I remember when I turned around and I seen that looking at me, that was probably the fourth or fifth time I had this overwhelming sense of being alone. I mean, who's going to understand what's going on? How do I fix this? What is going on? And so I just remember looking at it. And of course, I can be a little fiery, so I'm running my mouth to it. But as I went into the camper and I sat on the bed, and, one thing about Kennedy, she's this beautiful black and tan saddleback German Shepherd. She knew what was going on and she was comforting me. And I remember just sitting there, crying, trying to figure out, what am I going to do? And, I was just so scared and so alone. And, one of the things that through this whole time period, I felt more alone than I've ever felt in my entire life. And I've always felt alone. So this was such an isolation, this, it's hard to explain the depths that I ended up being in going through this process, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And Wes, you see, this was about 4 years ago now, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah, almost 5.
Okay. And I know as you're retelling this story, you get very emotional, understandably, but can you just explain, why do you think you still get so emotional this long after?
It's taken me a while. It's taken me this long to be able to even tell the story. The book's not complete yet because I couldn't tell the story. It was that life-altering. It was that terrifying. I mean, think of the worst thing that you've ever experienced in your life, and that duplicates every single day for 9 months. And honestly, I had side effects after this house for almost a total of 2.5 years. So it was a lot. I experienced a lot in the military, and I can promise you this has affected me significantly more than anything the Marine Corps or going to war has brought into my life. It's been a lot to process.
Yeah. And this was really just the beginning. I mean, we're recapping the beginning episode.
It hasn't even gotten crazy yet. I mean, if it was just this stuff, it'd be like, okay, but, yeah, it's going to get really crazy really soon. And, I know we just published episode 1, maybe an hour ago, right? And I've got people reaching out, commenting, on how excited they are, that they knew I'd gone through a lot and didn't realize it. And so I'm excited to tell this story because I know there's people out there that have something, maybe not this level, but they've got ghosts in the house. They've got things that they experience and have experienced. And we're going to talk about that later. And, there's easy ways to fix a lot of those things. And we're going to talk about that too.
Thank you, Wes. And, thank you for sharing this story. Thank you for taking us on this journey. And thank all of you for listening. I hope you continue on this journey with Wes because, like you said, there's so much more to come. And, I can't wait to hear what else he has to say. You've been listening to Enlightenment Unknown with Wes Coons, your guide on the quest for self-discovery and the version of you we haven't met yet.